Well, we'll have all that and more coming up. But first, our top story tonight, Big Brother watching you, or in this case, listening to you. A top secret court order is forcing Verizon to hand over millions of its customers' phone records to the government. But just how much freedom should you sacrifice for national security? Joining me now, Michael German, Senior Policy Counsel for the ACLU, and former federal prosecutor Michael Wilds, who has testified on Capitol Hill in connection with the anti-terrorism legislation. Michael, I'll start with you. You're on set. How extensively is the government looking at our phone calls?
Well, first I should say I'm a big fan of the ACLU, and it breaks my heart to kind of break or breach my support
well,
on
you guys
this
are going to have to be on opposite sides of this one,
Sometimes it happens, all in the same spirit. Look, you know, we have a lower expectation of privacy when we go to airports. This isn't the government listening to the content of our phone calls. They're actually looking at effectively the return addresses and where things are going. And they're looking for patterns. In 2011, testimony came from the intelligence community that in about 40 cases, this actually was useful intelligence for them. I don't think this is a slippery slope that's going to cause more problems. And it's important, no doubt, that we avert and that we have as great electronic equipment, if not better, than the bad guys.
Well, Michael, to you, I'm going to read this top secret court order. I think some people are just mad because we didn't know about it, okay? It came as news to a lot of people out there. Here is the top secret court order. On an ongoing daily basis, all call details created by Verizon for communications between the U.S. and abroad or wholly within the U.S. Metadata includes comprehensive communications, routing information, session identifying numbers, information that is telephone calling card numbers, and time and duration of call. Again, just as Michael Wilds said, this is not listening to the detail of your phone call, but it's all other details around it. You find this disturbing. Why?
Well, because it's unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment, first of all. But, you know, you got to understand that this detail, while it's not content, it still is very detailed information about your life over a long period of time. So, you know, Senator Feinstein has acknowledged these orders are just reactivations of orders that have been going on for 7 years. So this is millions of phone calls of millions of Americans that are being collected.
Well, in point of fact, it's 121 million customers at Verizon. And Michael Wild, there's no reason to think that other phone companies haven't had similar agreements with the government.
I agree, and I just don't see the harm. In Congress, they were told by the intelligence community that we need to look at roving terrorists. We need to look at lone wolves. We need business records. This is effectively the same standard that they use in Medicare or fraud, or when the government asks for information subpoenas. I served as a federal prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office. If they believe there's crime, they could ferret it out by getting this information. But it's only actionable if they can put it together with other intelligence. So if you have sheriffs in local towns, if you have foreign students, I'm an immigration lawyer by trade, if you have other intelligence coming in where they can avert an attack with these phone calls, we're talking about people making calls to high target areas. We're not talking about people calling their lovers, their grandparents, and the government putting it down.
We don't really know that at the end of the day.
Actually, we know it's the opposite is true. This is domestic calls that are being collected, the metadata about. And, you know, so when you call your doctor or when you call a virility clinic or where you call political groups that you're associated with, that data tells a whole lot about your life.
But we don't really care whether or not I don't think the government's interested in what physicians are seeing in their dissecting communications.
All right. I want to get to something else for just a second here, because there's a breaking story this hour from the Washington Post that extends this story. And what the Post is saying this afternoon, that the NSA and the FBI are tapping directly into the central servers of 9 leading internet companies, extracting audio, video, photos, and emails. It's a program that's been known as PRISM. It hasn't been made public. And I want to ask you this question, Michael, because this wouldn't be so upsetting except that the government doesn't tell us about this. The government, on the one hand, comes out and says, the war on terror, it's really over. You know, the war on terror, we won it. And at the same time, they're doing this.
We have some beautiful citizen children of this nation that are facing harm's way. We cannot expose the methods and procedures of their apparatus, but we must get to the methods and procedures of those that would do insidious conduct on your soil with our communication systems.
Michael German, respond to that. People in harm's way, depending on this kind of research, this kind of information, this kind of data to back up their efforts in the field.
Collecting information about innocent people won't give you any information about guilty people. I also worked in the federal government, worked in the FBI for 16 years, and what I found were evidence-based investigations targeted against those individuals who are doing harm or when it's effective.
One simple attack by one piece of information that was data mined. I would disagree if only we save one life.
But again, when we look at the cases where intelligence fell through the cracks, what we find is that the investigators were inundated with worthless information, so they didn't have time to find the crucial pieces that would have been important to preventing the attack.
Michael German, please respond to this Washington Post story about the government looking directly into the central servers of these big internet companies. And I mean big, I mean Google. What do you make of this?
Right. I think you're exactly right. That the problem is we have so many secret programs that we don't know about that it makes the public debate impossible. And Americans deserve to know what their government's doing. We have this opposite of the Fourth Amendment going on, where the government thinks that it can know everything about the citizens, but the citizenry can't know about the government, and
Michael,
that's not our style of government.
I want to get you to respond to something the president said on privacy. Here's the president.
This administration also puts forward a false choice between the liberties we cherish and the security we provide. I will provide our intelligence and law enforcement agencies with the tools they need to track and take out the terrorists without undermining our Constitution and our freedom. That means no more illegal wiretapping of American citizens. No more national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime.
What do you make of that?
These are competing interests. I believe, as the president articulated just now, that safety trumps privacy. It doesn't trump our constitutional privileges, but it means, like I said, when you go to an airport, we have a different expectation of what that privacy encompasses. I would agree with my colleague from the ACLU if this was going to be an invasion of content, but if they can data mine and put things together that will save a single life in this nation, go ahead.
And Michael, to you.
There's not a balance between security and privacy. Collecting my phone records won't tell the government anything about terrorists. So, this is a false choice we're being given. What we need to do is demand transparency, find out what the government's doing, and make sure it's actually effective, and we're not sacrificing our privacy for no security benefit.
Last word.
This is a free nation, but we're not free to do anything we want. We can't scream fire in a theater, nor can we allow the terrorists to take one phone from one carrier, go to another place, and do something through a third party. In Boston, we see what a lone wolf is capable of, and we have to be one step ahead, not reacting. With underwear bombers, shoe bombers, and all this technology that our children actually know more than we do, we have to be 10 steps ahead.
Okay, smart debate. You guys are pros. Excellent conversation. Thank you so much for really bringing this home. Thank you so much, Michael and Michael. Two Michaels.
Right. Thanks for having me.
Well, on a